Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Business Courier, the biggest business stories of 2014. We'll tell you our top 10. Plus, a behind-the-scenes look at a beautiful coming attraction to the Cincinnati Riverfront through the eyes of the artists. And using yoga to ease the pain of cancer. U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. And Happy New Year. Welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Allison Burke in for Peg Rusconi. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, the most important and impactful news events of 2014. Narrowing down the thousands of stories the Courier has covered this year to the top 10 was not easy, but here are the Courier's picks for the top stories of 2014. Coming in at number 10, downtown's comeback keeps rolling. Commercial and residential real estate is hot in the urban core. Number 9, Kroger completes big acquisitions, including North Carolina-based Harris Teeter. Number 8, Cincinnati Bell sells its wireless division to Verizon, part of a major refocusing. Number 7, Saks scraps its decision to move to Kenwood. An announcement about what is coming to Kenwood Collection is expected in early 2015. And number 6, the Inquirer staff shakeup. More than 1 out of every 6 staffers left, including some longtime high-profile names. The number 5 story, new life for Courier Tower. The iconic building has been bought, and we're still waiting for details on plans for its future. Number 4, Union Terminal and Music Hall land tax dollars for renovation. Voters approved a sales tax increase for Union Terminal, and just last month, Music Hall qualified for $25 million in Ohio Historic Preservation tax credits. Number 3, Toyota leaves Kentucky. The company announced in April that it would close its Erlanger site and move to Plano, Texas, taking 1,600 jobs with it. Number 2, CEO A.G. Lafley oversees an exodus of billion-dollar brands, and longtime executives from P&G look for even more changes as Lafley plans to step down again in 2015. And the Business Courier's pick for the number 1 story of 2014. In June, Cincinnati and Hamilton County made the biggest economic development deal in the region's history, awarding $57.3 million in incentives to General Electric and the bank's developer to build GE's U.S. Global Operations Center at the banks. The decision ended 3 months of competition with other sites in Oakley and Mason. The project is expected to have a $1 billion annual economic impact. 6 months after the banks was selected, construction is underway.
We're on track to meet our completed schedule date. March of 16 is when we're supposed to be substantially complete. And then there'll be a punch-out phase and turnover phase after that during the summer for the owner.
When completed, roughly 2,000 GE employees will pump parking revenue worth $26 million over 15 years into the banks. It also will allow developers to build the additional garages needed to bring the development out of the floodplain so that the project can be finished. It's a good time for local construction, and one of the largest general contractors in greater Cincinnati has a new general manager. Turner Construction has promoted David Spalding to general manager of its Cincinnati office. Spalding was born and raised in Villa Hills and says all the growth in his hometown region will mean more growth for his business.
We've all seen a lot of things going on, especially downtown. One of our big focuses, and we've seen the tax credits come in for Union Terminal. That's going on, and a lot of the healthcare and higher ed have been driving the market. So we're expecting some major growth in the area.
One of Turner's big projects is the renovation of Nippert Stadium at the University of Cincinnati.
It'll just transform the fan experience here for football fans, and we deserve that. We have a great team, we have a great coach, and can't wait for it to open next year.
The renovation of the 90-year-old Nippert Stadium is expected to be complete in time for the 2015-2016 football season, providing more space and new amenities. In addition to GE, the Banks is already home to Great American Ballpark, and 2015 will be a big year for both the Cincinnati Reds and the stadium. It's been 27 years since the Reds and Cincinnati have hosted Major League Baseball's All-Star Game, and it's coming back in July 2015. The new game and surrounding activities should create an economic impact of around $60 million. Preparations are already underway for the July baseball event and include updates to Great American Ballpark, a boost in season ticket sales, a bigger version of Reds Fest called Fan Fest at the Duke Energy Convention Center, more and bigger Reds sponsorships, no vacancy signs at downtown and northern Kentucky hotels, and there will be a need for thousands of volunteers if you want to get in on the action. The All-Star Game itself is on July 14th. Just in time for the All-Star Game, the new Carousel at Smale Riverfront Park should be open for riders. Last summer, crews started work on the Carousel and several new features. The Carousel will have a local theme and include 42 hand-carved animals. Local 12's Joe Webb had an opportunity to visit the artists who are hand-carving and painting the figures that will make Carol Ann's Carousel distinctly Cincinnati.
While the steel and glass for Carol Ann's Carousel rises along the Ohio riverfront, the jewels for this box are taking shape 180 miles away.
This is our carving department.
Kate Blakely is the marketing director for Carousel Works, the Mansfield, Ohio company that is hand carving and hand painting the 46 figures for Cincinnati's Carousel. They are the last custom, handmade carousel makers around. They encourage their customers to make their carousel uniquely theirs.
And I think Cincinnati really grabbed on tight to that theory, and I think that's what they're doing. Each figure is something that's either indigenous to Cincinnati or part of its history, or someone who's lived there and wants something specific represented that means something to them.
Marilyn is painting a rabbit whose saddle has images of Cincinnati's 7 hills and butterflies from the Crone Conservatory. There's a red-capped baseball horse draped in pennants and saddled by a catcher's mitt. Bubbles, an ivory-colored horse with a Crosley radio saddle, is called the soap opera horse. There are lots of bugs. This firefly is still being carved into shape. The full-grown cicada is already painted and jeweled. Each figure is designed with some subtle but recognizable detail. The gorilla saddle is decorated like the tile from Carew Towers Arcade. And once this giraffe is sanded, its horns will be highlighted by a tiara like the Queen City Tower. Cincinnati Parks solicited suggestions from the public for what figures people wanted to see, and a lot of people wanted an Oktoberfest horse.
So we sent the Carousel Works artists pictures of lederhosen and hats with feathers and suggested that, in fact, they decorate or carve the horse with lederhosen, with the hat, with a beer barrel saddle.
This is what they brewed up. It was a challenge. Although Carousel Works has made thousands of original horses, Cincinnati was the first to ask for hats and pants.
We actually found an image of, I think it was a pug dog that had like a lederhosen costume on, so we kind of used that as to where to put everything.
This guy is no pug.
It's a pretty lengthy process. It'll take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to turn one of these blocks of basswood into a penguin, bobcat, or flying pig headed to the Banks.
Donors ponied up $30,000 for the big outer ring carousel figures, $20,000 and $10,000 for the smaller inner ring figures. Next spring, this colorful menagerie will make a beeline for the Ohio riverfront, where they'll just go round and round for generations to come.
I think it's going to be an exciting carousel. It's going to have a lot of bling. They want jewels on all the figures, and it's going to be a real happy place, I think.
A dolled-up attraction where you can take history for a ride. In Mansfield, Joe Webb, Local 12 News.
And as Joe said, the carousel is expected to open this summer. UC Health is using yoga to help cancer patients reduce stress and manage their illness. The class is called Yoga Therapy in Cancer and Chronic Illness and was developed by an oncology nurse. The classes are molded to meet the needs of each participant and address physical, mental, and emotional issues related to their cancer diagnosis.
I always encourage patients that come into the classes only move to your comfort zone. So the comfort zone is a big deal. You want to back off from the comfort zone. You don't want to go beyond it.
The class emphasizes breathing practices and guided relaxation. It's also open to the loved ones of patients and cancer survivors. We want to tell you about the good work of someone we know well here on Business Watch. Former Business Watch anchor Brian Patrick has started a nonprofit organization called Pass It On. The program takes donations from people who have more than they need and makes the items available free of charge to those who need them.
I know that I've been really blessed, and I know that my family has been really blessed. And I believe that when we're blessed, we should bless others.
Patrick bought a building in Hebron to house Pass It On and store the wide variety of donations. It's staffed by volunteers, and there are no forms or requirements, just items donated and items received by folks who need them. Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, the CEO of Kroger is getting lots of attention for not seeking attention. And a Cincinnati restaurant is the only Ohio eatery to make a very exclusive list. Some news now that's getting a lot of attention on our Business Courier website and social media sites. The CEO of Kroger is the best CEO you've never heard of. That's what CNN called Rodney McMullen, who took over at Kroger a year ago. He made the list of CNN's 10 best CEOs of 2014. CNN credits McMullen with Kroger's recent push into organic foods. Kroger's stock is also up about 60% this year, making it one of the best performers on the S&P 500. McMullen was previously the company's COO and took over for David Dillon. A Cincinnati-made app is touted by Parents Magazine as one of the must-haves for 2015. Cincinnati-made Chore Monster was selected as one of 6 best apps for families. Chore Monster rewards kids for doing chores by presenting them with animated monsters, as well as points that can be redeemed for real-world rewards. Chore Monster is a 2011 graduate of the Brandery. Only one Ohio restaurant made the list of the top 100 eateries of 2014 ranked by Open Table Diners. And that restaurant is right here in Cincinnati. Orchids at Palm Court made the list of the year's best restaurants, which was compiled by analyzing more than 5 million reviews of more than 20,000 restaurants across the U.S. The Business Courier and U.S. Bank Business Watch rely on a team of local freelance photographers to help tell our stories. They picked their favorite images of 2014, and we've posted them to our website. Be sure to take a look, and thank you, Bruce Crippen, Jen Prine, Tom Ullman, Mark Bowen, and Paula Norton. In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, an appropriate topic for the new year, trends. It's a word commonly associated with the market. U.S. Bank Business Vice President and Senior Portfolio Manager Mike Denneman joins Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio with a look back at the trends that shaped 2014 and what we may expect in 2015. Mike, Kelly.
Thanks, Allie. It's great to have you with us, by the way. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good morning.
So, prominent themes.
Sure.
From last year. Let's start with that.
Sure. So it was a pretty good year for the market, but it certainly wasn't a smooth one. We had some record highs in there, but we also had some sharp declines too. Yeah. And a lot of that had to do with the themes and the trends that played out over the course of the year. Most recently, we had oil, of course, has been at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Yeah, very noticeable.
Very noticeable. But throughout the course of the year, there were, the Fed and higher rates were on the forefront of everybody's minds. We had worries about economic slowdowns overseas with Europe and China. There were concerns about, what's going to happen with the Ebola, with Ukraine, all of these geopolitical stories out there. And of course, we had a pretty significant election here at home. So all of those played into it. And then we also had trends within the market itself. Mm-hmm. There were quite a bit of mergers and acquisitions, quite a number of initial public offerings. We all learned what corporate inversions were. So all of this played into it. And again, it was an up and down year, but we finished on an upswing. So that's the good news.
That's good news. So looking into the crystal ball, what is going to stay the same in 2015?
Well, at least initially, something I mentioned just a minute ago, initial public offerings, I think that's a trend that we'll continue to see in the new year. Again, an IPO is when a privately owned company sells shares of its stock on the exchange for the first time. So 2014 was a banner year for IPOs, the most in more than a decade. So that's really no surprise. If you are the owner of a privately held company, you want to maximize your value, so you're more likely to issue shares when the market's doing well. And as we closed out 2014 at near record levels, I think that will only encourage more IPOs for 2015. We're already starting to hear rumblings of high-profile names like Uber that are anxious to come to market.
Yeah, and what about differences? What are we going to notice?
Sure, I think probably the biggest difference is going to be with the Fed and interest rates. So the Federal Reserve has been sitting on the sidelines for the large part the last several years. From the financial crisis on, we've been having these very low interest rates. And the Fed has been reluctant to raise those. They don't want to upset the economy. But as we moved into 2000 and through 2014, the economy's picked up. There's become a lot of pressure on the Fed to do something. To this point, they haven't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debate about whether that's a wise move or not, but I think that pressure has reached a point that they can't defer any longer, so that as we move into 2015, we probably see some action from the Fed. And that is a real departure from their prior policy, which has been, again, this extended period of low interest rates. So there are a lot of opinions about what that will mean for the market, but I think one thing we can count on is the Fed pushing those rates a little higher.
Okay, sounds good. And we can also count on U.S. Bank giving us great advice. So
absolutely.
We thank you for that, and we wish you a Happy New Year.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, Allie, back to you.
Thanks, Kelly. Still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch, we've shared a lot of good job and economic development news with you this morning. So what does the future hold for Cincinnati? Jonna Reeder, who leads the region's leading economic development initiative, joins us next with a forecast. Earlier in the program, we told you how the deal to bring the GE Global Operations Center to the banks will result in a $1 billion economic impact for our region. It will also bring about 40% of the new jobs created by Ready Cincinnati projects in 2014. Ready Cincinnati is the region's leading economic development initiative. Through the end of November, Ready Cincinnati projects commitments include creating nearly 3,500 new jobs, more than 4,600 total jobs retained, and nearly $333 million in capital investment from 41 companies. Jonna Reeder is president and CEO of Ready Cincinnati. In this morning's Business Insight, she joins Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith in the studio to talk about the work Ready has been doing and what lies ahead. Jamie, Jonna?
Thanks, Allie. Jonna, thanks for being in today.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You've been quoted as saying this region is in a renaissance. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Well, I don't know about you, Jamie, but can't you just feel it?
Oh.
It's really exciting to be in Greater Cincinnati now. Those of us that were here just 10 years ago knew that we were at a pivotal time in the history of Greater Cincinnati, and we made the right turn. With the amount of reinvestment that's taken place in the urban core, with the amount of urban and suburban sites that we're able to promote as the Regional Economic Development Initiative, we have a lot of companies looking to grow in place or expand to the region. So that's why I call it a renaissance. They're calling us.
That's great. Now, foreign investment, let's talk a little bit about that. You said that opportunity is available here and that you guys are working hard on that. Talk a little about that and kind of like a timeline. When do we expect to see success with foreign investment?
Well, everyone loves to cut a ribbon. Don't we all love it when a new company comes to town?
A lot of those pictures in our paper.
Absolutely. But 80% of companies that are growing grow in place. So you never want to forget your existing companies. Right. And we have a lot of foreign investment from countries such as Japan and Germany. Those are our top two. But we are also in France, Israel, and India. It is really important to get out to those countries and expose them to the U.S. When they're choosing their first U.S. location, you want to be be sure that they're thinking of Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southeastern Indiana. With our cost of living being 30% lower than the East and West Coast, many of these countries are looking for great value, low taxes, business friendly, and we have to go and sell that story to them. That way you're not cannibalizing your own, just picking companies from somewhere else in the region. You're actually going to another country, bringing them to the U.S.
Well, that's great. Now you've been on the team here, what, 7 months?
It'll be 8 months, January 1st. Right. Who's counting?
Exactly. Have gotten a lot accomplished. Looking into 2015, what are the major goals?
You know, the major goals are to continue with the laser focus on creating new jobs, retaining jobs, and creating new capital investment. When I started 8 months ago in Ready Cincinnati at its inception, we took an overall evaluation of the organization, of the staff, and made some critical changes that we think have given us a laser focus, relying on our partners to take care of things like land banking and brownfield cleanup and foreign trade zone. We need all of those things to be successful. We need a strong talent pool in workforce development, but I need to rely on partners for a competitive workforce and the workforce investment boards and the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that our partners are taking care of those what I would call wraparound services so that our companies can grow in place or we can bring new ones here. That's Ready's focus for 2015.
I think the move that you guys have all done, the Chamber, you guys, the CBC, CRBC, all the port, all neighbors now in the same building.
We're physically located together.
So it's pretty easy to get a meeting with those people you need to get, right?
You know, it's good to be able to walk down the hall. It creates collaboration when you're in such close proximity.
Absolutely.
And it's also a sign that it's time to work together. And we can get a lot more accomplished when we work together instead of in silos. And it's proven a fact in the past 8 months.
Great. Well, it's been exciting to see you in the position. It's been excited to see you building the team that you've got. And I look forward to a successful 2015 and beyond with Ready Cincinnati.
We do too, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on today.
My pleasure.
Allie, back to you.
Thank you, Jamie. And thank you for joining us this morning for U.S. Bank Business Watch. We'll be back next Sunday and every Sunday morning at 6:30 here on Local 12 and 10 a.m. on the CW. For more business news all week long, visit the Business Courier online and sign up for our daily emails and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Our web address is cincinnatibusinesscourier.com. I'm Allison Burke. Have a great Sunday and a Happy New Year.